This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Haba, welcome everyone. Tonight's shir, it's a special subject. It's in honor of the upcoming Siyum Hashas, the 13th Siyum Hashas, and many people are very excited about it. Even many of us who did not learn Shas, even many of us who did not learn Brachos, even many of us maybe we didn't even get past the first blot, but still it's a simcha for Klal Yisrael. Hundreds, probably thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people have finished, and it's a great simcha for Klal Yisrael. And even if somebody did not learn Shas, nevertheless, for 100,000 Jews to come together in one venue, it's a very unique experience and a unique opportunity. So I want to take advantage of in preparation. Sometimes if a person doesn't prepare for something, so then the opportunity sometimes just slides by. And like most things in life, what you get out of something is what you prepare for. So I sort of compiled somewhat randomly. It's not Torah Misina that these are the 10 preparations that you should have, but still there are 10 important things to think about, and I'm sure 10 l'chacham v'yachgam oid. Okay, so the first step, as what we call these are the 10 ways to ensure that the Siyum Hashas will mamish change your life, right? As the common refrain goes, as they say in French, it will mamish change your life. Okay, so as we mentioned, the better the preparation a person does for something, the more a person is able to take out of what they're about to experience. So you're on the way to Siyum Hashas, and it's going to take you, according to Waze, 54 minutes from the present location. But that's, I don't know, with traffic, without traffic, don't hold me to it to the minute. But it's going to take you about an hour or so to get there, and until you get in the stadium. So what are you going to do in the car ride? So Hashem gave New York a very great matana, that there are no sports to listen to, there's nothing to talk about, other than to prepare for the Siyum Hashas. So, what are you going to do on the road? Now, even if you're not going to the Siyum Hashas, this is an important limud in general. What does a person do when he travels? So we know the pasuk says in Chumash, "Uvelechtecha v'adarach," which is speaking about the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, that one has a responsibility to learn Torah, not only b'shivtecha b'veisecha, not only when one sits in the comfort of one's home, but also uvlechtecha v'adarach. The Mishnah Berurah even brings la halacha, that when one travels on the road, v'yasik b'Torah b'adarach, one is supposed to learn on the road. It's a halacha. And the Mishnah Berurah cites the Mishnah on Avos, that if somebody is traveling on the road and they let their mind just be unoccupied, mischayev benafshay, it's actually it's something that a person is liable for. However, the Mishnah Berurah cautions, don't involve yourself in some kind of like deep sugya. You're going to start clearing the machlokes, Reb Shimon Shkop and Reb Baruch Ber, whether chazaka is din or din birur. Don't break your head over anything too complex, because you might get sidetracked. Dilma asi letrudi, the Gemara says in Tainis, but something light, So you say, what are you going to listen to? So there's something called TorahAnytime.com, or there are many other venues. I remember when I was a kid, they used to have something called Torah tapes. Remember Torah tapes? When you had a big Gemara test before the art scroll. Now, you have art scroll in Daf Yomi edition size, big size, small size. Now they came out with the introduction to Shas, But when I was a kid, they had Sensino. Lots of luck. It's one thing you learn Megillah with Sensino. Lots of luck learning Baba Kama with Sensino. Or it basically translates the words. And so you get Torah tapes, and it would really depend on who the Magid Shir was. I remember, Rav Obam was on the Magid Shurim. Rav Yaakov Reisman was on the Magid Shurim. The good old Torah tapes. And but there are many things you can listen to, many sites, many opportunities for a person to take advantage of the time in the car or when one travels to learn, especially on the way to the Siyum Hashas. You can't go into the Siyum Hashas after, listening to nonsense for 50 minutes about, people speaking Dvarim B'Telem about news that never even happened, that the media made up. So you're going to listen to people talking about something that never even occurred. What's the tachas of that? V'yasek b'Torah b'adarach. The Chida, interestingly, brings down a tradition that he has, that it's unclear what he's referring to. The Chida writes in the Birkei Yosef in Archaim Siman Kuf, he says, "V'kibalti shel yomoid b'chol yom ktsas mizmorei tehillim b'kavana v'hachna." He says, I have a tradition that every day a person should learn a few chapters of Tehillim with kavana. It's unclear whether he means while you're traveling or in general. Tehillim is something nice to learn. But number one, the first way to ensure that the Siyum Hashas will mamash change your life is make sure you take advantage of the travel time for a constructive purpose. Number two, a very interesting tshuva, amazing tshuva. So you hear that many people finish Shas, and by the way, finishing Shas is an amazing thing. Somebody's able to learn every day for 7.5 years. By the way, provided that you don't learn during Chazar Sashatz. If you learn during Chazar Sashatz, you can't make a Siyum. You can't, it's not even a Simcha. You're not going to be rewarded for it. It could be that you have to do it again. Actually, Reb Chaim Kanievsky has a possibility. If you're Maver Sedra during Chazar Sashatz, you have to do it again. It's a mitzvah haba ba'avera. But presumably you did it at the right time. Obviously you didn't do it when the rabbi's speaking, otherwise it's not nice, It's not nice. But you did it at the right time, so it's a very big simcha. But I didn't learn Shas, so how am I supposed to feel? Is a Jew obligated to learn Shas? Or is it just it's a nice thing to do if you're able to do it? If you're the kind of guy that likes to learn Shas, so it's a nice thing to do if you learn Shas. But if you're not the kind of guy to learn Shas, so then I'll learn my thing, I'll be Maver Sedra, I'll learn some Nevi'im. Is a Jew responsible to learn Shas? So in one of the newer volumes of the Igros Moshe, in the Chelek Ches, the 8th Krach, or Chaim Hey, Rabbi Moshe has a wondrous tshuva. Rabbi Moshe writes that there are really two mitzvahs of Talmud Torah. One mitzvah is to learn Be'iyun. You have to learn in depth. And Rabbi Moshe seems to say that not everybody has the time to be able to do that. Because if you only have a little bit amount of time to learn every day, it's very hard to say, says Rabbi Moshe, that what's expected is to learn Be'iyun in that half hour. It's very hard to learn Be'iyun in a short amount of time. So Rabbi Moshe says, a Jew is responsible to learn every day Shaloi Be'iyun. Somewhat, not superficially, but to get the general idea, to get the general picture, Rabbi Moshe writes. And therefore, every day, put the originals back.
Oh, this original.
Every day, says Moshe, you should learn another parak. You should learn another parak. Why? Because, says Moshe, a Jew is obligated to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. A Jew is obligated and responsible to learn the entire Torah. And therefore, every day, whether you have 20 minutes, you have a half hour, you need to learn another parak, another topic. So that ultimately, when you call it a day, when life is over, you could say, I learned Kol HaTorah Kula. Says Rav Moshe, the obligation to learn Kol HaTorah Kula was what caused that the custom in the majority of the Jewish people was to learn a blat Gemara every single day. Rav Moshe writes that the minhag in Roiv Arei Yisrael, the minhag in most Jewish cities, be it Prague, be it Krakow, be it Vienna, be it Budapest, whatever city you want to say, says Rav Moshe, the minhag in most Jewish cities from time immemorial was to learn a blad a day. Or to have chevrei shas. So balabatim would get together and the Rav would learn shas with the balabatim. Or they would divvy up the shas. They would say, okay, this year we're divvying up the shas. Yankel will take this masechta, Beryl will take that masechta, Five will take this masechta, and every year they would finish the shas. But the Mamash writes a remarkable lashon. He says, when the concept of learning shas became weak, they were noiheg, based on Hagoin Rav Meir Shapiro, that daf yomi should be kavua b'chol ha'olam. Rav Moshe learns, we would have thought, daf yomi was like something that, a good suggestion that somebody had. They got up at the Knesset Gedolah and they recommended that everybody learn Shas. No, it was a kemat, it was like a takana. Because since Jewish custom was that Jews would learn a blot every day, and Jews would learn Shas and would be knowledgeable in Shas, and it became weak, Rav Meir Shapiro, at the behest of the Chavetz Chaim and Rav Chaim Ozer, got up at the Knesset Gedolah, and he said, that's it. Every Jew all over the world is going to learn the same page of Gemara every day. And says Rav Moshe, because if a Jew learns Shas, he has in effect learned Kol HaTorah Kula. In other words, how do we define Kol HaTorah Kula? I would have said, maybe Shisha said a Mishnah, because Shas does not have Zroim, for the most part. Shas does not have Kodshim, not much of it. Shas does not have Taros. But, says Rav Moshe, by learning Talmud Bavli, we're Mekayim learning Kol HaTorah Kula. What about Talmud Yushalmi? No, Talmud Yushalmi is very difficult to learn, says Rav Moshe. We don't have a concise perush like Rashi on Talmud Yushalmi, and the reason we don't have it is because Talmud Bavli is much more important, because we paskin like the Bavli. And therefore, for the majority of history, there were many great Gedolim that didn't learn Talmud Yushalmi. There were many Gedolim that didn't even see Talmud Yushalmi. It wasn't even printed. They didn't have access to it. But if a Jew learns Talmud Bavli, they have in effect learned Kol HaTorah Kula. And who has to learn Kol HaTorah Kula? A Jew. Really? Everyone has to learn Kol HaTorah Kula? No, not everyone. Gentiles are patur from learning Kol HaTorah Kula. But Jews, Yidden, are chayiv. Really? I have to spend my always learn Kol HaTorah? No. Also, people who are dead don't have to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. But if you're alive, somebody who's breathing, they have to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. What's Kol HaTorah Kula? Shas. Now, do I have to learn Daf Yomi? No, you can't say that there's a real takana in Klal Yisrael to learn Daf Yomi. If, let's say, it's too fast for you and you don't get it, you're just running through it. So there's no mitzvah to quickly not understand Kol HaTorah Kula. The mitzvah is to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. There's no mitzvah not to learn Kol HaTorah Kula. What do you do? You just spend 7.5 years of not learning Kol HaTorah Kula. So if you're able to gain from learning Daf Yomi, for the most part, the average person, are they able to learn Daf Yomi? It's a personal question. Usually you have to be quite smart to really gain something from learning a blot every single day, or you have to be sort of satisfied with not getting a very... but if somebody is able to, then but if somebody is not able to learn a blot a day, you got to learn an amud a day. And if you can't learn an amud a day, you got to learn a blot a week, or have some kind of real plan. Meaning, the second thing you need to take out of the Siyum Hashas is that a Jew is obligated in their life to learn Shas. It could be a blot a day, it could be a blot a week. If you plan on living 700 years, so then you could learn a blot every 10 years, however you plan to do it. You got a chazer also. But the first thing is, a Jew must learn Kol HaTorah Kula, and Kol HaTorah Kula halacha is Shas. It doesn't say it's Nevi'im, it doesn't say it's Ksuvim, even though we try to learn everything. Rav Moshe defines Kol HaTorah Kula as learning Shas. So the next thing you need to take out of the Siyum Shas is, a Jew is obligated to learn Shas. Now, whether we're going to do it or not, that's a different story. But at the very least, you need to know that you need to do it. Now, there was once a great gadol we used to go to, and somebody once asked one of the attendees of the Shiur of Rav Victor Miller, why do you go to the Shiur? You do everything he says? He said, no, I don't do everything he says, but at least I know what I need to do. You know, people want to hear watered down Judaism because that makes them comfortable. No, you should not want to hear watered down. You need to want to hear the real thing. Whether you do it or not, that's a separate story. But the first thing is you have to know what your obligations are. And step number 2 is your obligation is, some by hook or by crook, you got to learn the Shas. Blot a day, blot a week, blot a year, but you got to get through it. Okay, now that we know you need to do it, here's the next step. Now that you know you have to learn the Shas, step 3 is you need to want to learn it. Well, I have to do it. So you could say, I have to do it, but I'm not going to, and I don't want to. No, I'm not up to doing it. I'm not saying you should do it yet. Now I'm up to, I know I have to do it. The next step is, I want to do it. Because we know that if a person wants to do a mitzvah, and then circumstances don't allow it, you're limited by circumstance, you don't have the opportunity to, so then HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers it as if you did it. So for example, you went to yeshiva, you were in high school, you were in Beis Medrash a couple of years, so in Beis Medrash what did you learn already? You learned a couple blot, be'iyun, which you don't remember anymore, and now then you went to school, and then you got married, and you raised your family, and now, I didn't have time to learn, and now I'm 80 years old and I didn't learn Shas. Okay? So now, Rebbe Shem, I want to learn Shas. I can't, daf a day is too fast, so I'm going to learn a blot a week. But it's going to take me 50 years. So Rebbe Shem, look, I want to do it, and I have a plan to do it. If you give me the time, I'll do it. If you don't give me the time, chishev lasois mitzvah v'nenas v'yasa mala olav kilu asa. If you want to do it, and you're not able to, Hashem will consider it like you did it. But you have to at least want to. When you're sitting there at the Siyum Hashas, don't jump up and down and say, wow, good for those people. It doesn't work for me. No, you should think, I wish I could do it. I wish I could do it. I wish I did it. I wish I will do it. I hope I could do it. This is the principle of L'choshvei Shemai. The Gemara says in Brachos, Mayu L'choshvei Shemai. Amar Rav Ashi, Chishev Adam Lasois Mitzvah V'nenas V'lo Yasa Mala Olav HaKosav Kilu Asa. It's interesting, Rav Victor Miller, Zechazak Levracha, writes that one of the main functions of tefillah is to tap in to the mechanism of Chishev Lasois Mitzvah V'nenas V'lo Yasa Mala Olav HaKosav Kilu Asa. You know, you have a guy, he goes to, I don't know, what time does he daven Shachris? Pick a time. 8 o'clock. Halavai can daven 8 o'clock. Well, 8 o'clock. And he works. What does he do for a living?
Accountant.
He's an accountant. Okay, good job. And this guy, he's in Hatzolah, let's say. So he saves, this Hatzolah guy, how many lives does he save a year? 13 lives a year. And he's also a doctor besides being an accountant. And in his medical practice, he saves 57 lives a year. And besides that, he's a big oisher and he gives a lot of tzedakah. And he supports a koilel. How many koilel yungalayis does he support? 35. So he has on his cheshbon, he's supporting 35 koilel yungalayit. He saves 57 lives in his medical practice. He saves 17 people throughout Salah, and through his accounting firm, he helps out a chves, 15 Talmidei Chacham. Very nice. But he only saved 57 lives. And he only saved another 17 lives. And he's only supporting 35 koilel yungalayit. That's nothing! He could be supporting 10,000 koilel yungalayit. He could be saving 100,000 lives. You say, how could anybody do that? Very simply, because you could want to do that. And if you want to do that, God will consider it as if you did it. Because when you say Rifa'enu, so if you're a doctor and you save lives, great, but you're limited in the number of lives you could save. But what if you daven and you say Rifa'enu and you say Rebbeinu Shalom, heal all the Cholei Yisrael? There are 1,000 Cholei Yisrael. Rebbeinu Shalom, I want you to heal all the Cholei Yisrael. L'achar me'ah ve'esrim shana, you're going to go up to Shamayim, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to say, you are merape 1,000 Cholei Yisrael. I say, Rebbeinu Shalom, I didn't do nothing. I just sat in the shul. I sat there in the shul. That guy ran out right after Chazor Hashas to go do something, and I was sitting in the shul the whole davening. Says Rebbeinu Shalom, no, you did more than the guy who ran out, because when you were davening, you were thinking, I want to be merape all the Cholei Yisrael. So Hashem considers it as if you did. And when you said Baruch Aleinu, you were a mispala, Rebbeinu Shalom, give parnasa to every yid, Hashem considers it like you were mefarnes all the nitzrachim. And when you said V'Yushalayim Yercha, you had in mind, Rebbeinu Shalom, I want to rebuild Yerushalayim. So you're going to go upstairs, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to say, you were the Boinei Yerushalayim. How's the Boinei Yerushalayim? In Cedarhurst? What exactly did I do? I didn't do none. I never even went to Yerushalayim. No. You davened every day, I wish I could rebuild Yerushalayim. Any shadchanim over here? Come on, every Jew is a shadchan on the side, no? Your wife. How many shidduchim did she make? Probably 10,000, right? Something like that. Mustama. What? 9,000. But only 9,900. But if you're mispalel, I wish I could find and help people, all the yidden, then you're going to be accredited with that zechus. Let's say you're a fertility specialist. So how many people could you help have a child in 1 year? 100? Probably not even. But if you're mispal, Rebbeinu Shalom be mevarech with zara chai v'kayama, then Rebbeinu Shalom, this guy goes upstairs. He didn't do one thing his whole life except for have in mind what he would like to do in the Shemana Esrei. One of the main functions of Shemana Esrei, says Rav Miller, is to activate the principle of Chishev Lasois Mitzvah V'nenas V'lo Yasa Mala Olav Kilu Asa. So when you're at the Siyum Hashas, if you learn Shas, the truth is, if you learn Shas, you have a disadvantage. Why? Because if you learn Shas, you only learn Shas. But here's the thing, I only learned Shas, but you learned it with every Rashi? Yeah, but with every Tosfos? No, with every Tosfos, not with every Rashba. So if you learned the Shas, you're limited by what you did. But if you want to learn it, I wish I could have learned it with every Marsha, Maram Shif, Rashash, Rush, Ran, Rif, Ritva, Mishnah Berurah Halacha, with the Bir Allah Sharat Tzion. This is a principle we quote from Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, right? That actually, in a way, it's better to want to do a mitzvah. Now, the truth is, if the reason you didn't learn Shas is because you're busy on your phone, so then you don't want to learn Shas. People say, I don't have time to learn Shas. But if at the end of the day you calculate, you've spent 4 hours on the phone, you could learn not Daf Yomi, you could learn like 10 Daf Yomi every day. Just take a little look of how much time you spend on the phone every day. You'll see you have enough time. You probably have enough time to squeeze it in. Okay, that's.
What does it mean?
What? The pasuk, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. The pasuk, yeah, the pasuk of L'choi Shvei Shemai. So number one, make sure you use your travel time. Number two, we learned you need to learn Shas. Now that you know you need to learn Shas. Want to learn Shas. Ready? Here's the big one. Mishnah Pirkei Avos. We're talking about a guy. This guy, he has more masim than chachma. So the Mishnah says chachma miskayemes. But the Mishnah says, but if someone who has more chachma than maisim, ein chachma miskayemes. Now the guy who has more chachma than masim, I know that guy, and so do you. Who has more chachma than maisim? He's the guy who learned the whole Shulchan Aruch and keeps, I would say, 1 out of every 10 halachas that he learns. I know that guy. That's us. We know, but we don't do everything we know. So somebody whose chachma is more than his maisim, ein chachma miskayemes. But says the Mishnah, someone whose masim is more than his chachma miskayemes. Could somebody tell me what in the world does it mean to have more maisim than chachma? How can you have more maisim than chachma? So you're telling me the guy knows, let's say there's 6 chalakim in the Mishnah Berurah. He knows 3, but he does all 6. How in the world is he fulfilling all 6 if he only knows 3? He's guessing right? The halacha dictates the minutia of every step you make. How can a person have more masim than chachma? If you don't know, you can't do. That's the kasha Rabbeinu Yoina. Rabbeinu Yoina writes in number 7 on the 4th line, on the 5th line, Aval yesh lishol, eich efsher liyos masa meruba mechachmasai. How is it possible for your maisim to be more than chachma? Im eino yodea Torah, ma hamasim shichal lasois. Says Rabbeinu Yoina, Yisoid noira v'ayim. Zois ha-mishnah itza toiva kamash malan. This Mishnah is teaching good advice. That a person should say, you know what? I don't know all the Mishnah Berurah yet. I don't know everything yet. But whatever I learn in halacha, whatever my rabbi tells me, I'm makabel on myself, I'm going to do it. We know there's a principle that if a person makes a Kabbalah, that whatever they learn they're going to do, the Rebbeinu Shem considers it as if they already did it. That's how it's possible to have more maisim than chachma, where you're makabel that whatever you learn, you're going to perform. So even though you don't know anything yet, you could have a guy, he's from Omaha, Nebraska, no offense to anyone from Omaha, Nebraska, and he came to the Siyum Hashas, and he said, wow, I never knew there's something called Torah. I think I'm going to start learning Torah. Whatever I learn in the Torah, I'm going to keep. That guy immediately is given credit for being Mekayim Kol HaTorah Kula, even though he can't even read the first word Me'im Asay. Because once a person is Mekabel upon himself to do something, HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers it as if he did it. Says Avos to Reb Nassan, how do I know that if someone's Mekabel to do something, it's considered like they did it? The Mishnah says in Avos to Reb Nassan, what does it mean? Kol Shamasav Meruben Mechachmasoi Shenemar Nasa V'nishma. We will do, and then we will listen. Asks the Mishnah, how could you do before you know? Says the Mishnah, Klal Yisrael stood at Har Sinai and they said, Rebbeinu Shalom, we don't know what you're going to tell us, but we're going to do it. And after we do it, we'll get around to learning what we need to do. Says the Rebbeinu Shalom, oh, you're going to do it even before you know what it is? I consider it as if you already did it. The principle that if you're makabel to do something, it's considered as if you did it. We learn from Nasa and Nishma. How could you say Nasa if you didn't do Nishma yet? The answer is we say, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm going to do it, and you consider it as if I did it already. That's the principle of Nasa v'Nishma. So, here's the fourth rule. You can be sitting there at the Siyum Hashas, and you can hear good speakers. They pay the best speakers. And they're going to be ma'ayr. A person can get a hasayros. By the way, if you can't make it, there's something called TorahAnytime.com. They're streaming live. My friends are waking up 4 o'clock in the morning. They're davening nets at MetLife Stadium. Okay? The first Nets minion at MetLife Stadium. Can you imagine? To get set everything up, they're not in one of these warm, cozy boxes. Some people are going to be nice and toasty tomorrow. Some people are going to be frozen tomorrow. But the Torah Anytime, they're going to be in the box with the windows open because no glare. They don't want the glare of the window, right? So they're going to be there from 4 o'clock in the morning. And so if you can't make it, you watch it. You at least think, I wish I could have been there. I couldn't I couldn't buy tickets. I wish I could have been there. But you're going to hear, you know what? Maybe you'll say, maybe I could do the Daf Yomi. If you think you could do it, if you really think you can do it, be makabel to do it. Be makabel to do it, you did it already. You got the whole, you could even if you don't make it through to the next cycle, you go upstairs, Rabbi Shalom says you learn Shas. Because you're makabel to do it. No, you can't do Daf Yomi, you can do Amud Yomi, be makabel Amud Yomi. Then Rabbi Shalom says, I give you credit for learning Shas in 15 years. You can't do Amud Yomi, Daf HaShavua. Or we could say the other way around. If you can't do Daf HaShavua, then be makabel b'di'eva to do Daf Yomi. Whichever one you think is better. But do something. Have some commitment that you're gonna do it. And if you're only able to learn Daf HaChayim, one blot in your whole life, be makabel one blot. Rebbe Shalom, you're going to give me another 90 years, in my 90 I'm going to learn a word a day. Gevaldik! Be makabel to learn one blot, at least you'll get credit for that one blot. You walk out of the Siyum Hashas with something in your back pocket. Nasa v'nishma. Once you're makabel to do it, you get credit for it. Now you have to try to do it. You can't say I'm makabel to learn the whole Shas and then take it easy the rest of your life. It has to be a real Kabbalah. Okay. Next. Number 5. You know the guy, how are we doing? We're all right? We're okay. We'll be good. We could do that. Yeah? Here, you know the guy, number 5. Number 5. You know the guy, he always learns himself. He's taka big Talmid Chacham. He always learns himself. We're good. He's always learning himself. He sits in the back of the Beis Medrash and he learns Yoimam V'Layla, all day, all night. Nobody doesn't say a boo to anybody. He doesn't even say buha. He just learns. Yeah? He's never mavato. He's not even going to the Siyum Hashas. He's such a big masmeh. Or the guy, he learns with his chavrusa. But he doesn't go to shiurim. Because after all, what's better? Is it better to learn b'chavrusa or is it better to go to a shiur? It's hard to say it's better to go to a shiur. What do you do at a shiur? You're just sitting there, you're watching the guy who's giving the shiur. Are you listening to the guy? Hopefully in this shiur everybody's listening, but at a shiur, you don't have active participation. Unless you're in charge of the camera. But if you're learning b'chavrusa, you could ask him a question. If the guy says a good svara, you could say kafter v'ferach. If the guy says a bad svara, you could wring his neck. I went to be Menachem Avel, the Rosh Yeshiva today. The Rosh Yeshiva was saying, that guy, I like that guy because when I say a svara, he screams at me. That's machamta shel Torah. But learning by yourself or learning b'chavrusa has a serious deficiency. And the Bir Halacha writes that even somebody who learns all day and all night by himself, or even b'chavrusa, it is not lechatchila. Lechatchila, as much as possible, you should learn with a chabura, be it at a shiur or be it in a chabura. Why? Says the Bir Halacha, mitzvah lahader kol ma sheyachol lilmod b'chabura. Number 1, it's bigger kavod shamayim. It's bigger kavod shamayim. Why are you learning? You're learning for yourself? I'm learning because I want to be a Talmid Chacham. You're learning to bring honor to the Lord. It brings more honor to the Lord. You could have, let's say, how many people we have in the room? Whatever it is. What's better? 40 people or 20 chavrusa shafs? 20 chavrusa shafs, it's 20 groups of chavrusas. 40 people brings kavod shemayim. Says the Bir Halacha, as much as possible to learn bechabura, beroiv am hadras melech. There's another nafkamina. A guy who learns himself, God takes note of it, but he doesn't write it down. You learn bechavrusa, God doesn't write it down. Now, he doesn't need to write it down. But you don't reach the madrega where you're written in the Sefer HaZachronos. However, says the Bir Halacha, we learn in Pirkei Avos, when a person learns Shaloi B'Yechidi, the Rebbeinu Shalom comes and he records the learning, the Sefer HaZachronos.
It's not going together with what Brachot says. Masechet Brachot says at least 2 people is good.
Yeah. Bracha says 2 people. Yeah. And furthermore, the Bir Halacha brings that they asked the Rebbeinu Shalom, why do you show favoritism to Klal Yisrael? Why do you love them so much? Why do you countenance them? And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I love them so much because they get together and they learn bechabura. That the Bir Halacha says, we learn from Chazal, that when Klal Yisrael learns bechabura, when Klal Yisrael learns in one unit, in a minyan, so it creates a great masay panim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, Bir Halacha writes a halacha, that one should make every effort, even if they learn on their own, even if they learn even bechavrusa, it's not enough to make time, regular time, to learn in a large group. It brings kavod shamayim, you're recording the Sefer HaZachronos, and furthermore, Hashem shows favoritism to Klal Yisrael. So, in the Sefer Chidushei Halev of Rabbi Binyamin Luban, which is the shmuzin of the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Chafetz Chaim, Rav Alter Chanoi Chenach Libu Tzach Bracha, he brings in the back of the Sefer ha'aras from the Rosh Yeshiva's father-in-law, Rabbi Avram Trupp. And Rabbi Avram Trupp was ma'orer that based on his Bir Halacha, the way that most yeshivas learn is not really l'chadchila. How do people learn in yeshiva? You learn by yourself, you learn bechavrusa. But you're not learning bechabura. That even b'nei yeshiva need to make every effort on a regular basis to get together a few chavrusa shafts and learn bechabura. Because yes, lamaisa, it's very hard to become a serious Talmid Chacham just by sitting back and listening to somebody else. You got to do the hard work yourself. But ein Torah niknes ela b'chabura. There's a certain level of achievement in Torah that could only come if you're together with an oilam. There's a shechina, a siyata d'shmaya, that you need to learn b'chabura to reach this madrega of Torah.
Shiur is chabura?
L'chayra. Yeah.
Even though it's passive.
Yeah, because I don't think the nekuda of chabura is active learning. The nekuda of chabura is, it's a tzibur. I would believe so. I would think so. I would say physical presence. You should listen to Shiur also. If you're in the car, you can stuff in 30 guys in the car and have a chabura in the car. Do you get credit for chabura by listening? I wouldn't think so. What? Now everyone should listen. I have nothing against listening. If they could talk back.
But it's better to come to the Shiur to hear it live.
Look, the best kind of learning is right here in this Shiur. Let's just set the record straight, But after the Shiur, then we could talk. Okay. Number 6. Number 6 is very important. There is a mitzvah d'oraisa to be mizdabek to Talmidei Chachamim. There are not so many mitzvah d'oraisas that we have. To hang out with Talmidei Chachamim. To be in their company. The Gemara says in Ksubis, Hadavak b'chachamim, kilo davak b'shchina. There's not talking about the Shiur. There's not this outside of the parameters of learning. To hang out with the chachamim, to be around them. So what should you do? You should marry the daughter of a Talmid Chacham. This way you'll be in the presence of a Talmid Chacham. Marry your daughter to a Talmid Chacham. Eat with a Talmid Chacham. So how do you eat with Talmid? I don't know. Whenever there's eating, if you see Talmid Chacham eating, go eat with him. V'yahaneu min chasav. Benefit the Talmid Chacham from your resources. V'yisabik ba'afar ragleim shel Talmidei Chachamim. You should roll in the dust Here, this is very important. Rabbi, I was wondering, I heard, I know the halacha is that when on this and this day I'm supposed to do this and this, right? I know you're supposed to do that, right? Are you asking a shaila, or you're telling me what the halacha, like, what are you doing exactly? People like to phrase the question that way. Why? Because chas v'shalom, to be machnia a little bit to a tamcha. The halacha is this, just confirming. So what exactly are you doing? Why? Because it's difficult for somebody to lower themselves in front of anybody else, let alone Talmid Chacham. But v'yisabik be'afar ragleim is to humble yourself. Some people listen like this, meaning, it might be interesting, and I'll decide whether I like it or not. I'll be the final arbiter whether I agree with what's being said. You're not being misabik b'afar ragleim. You have to humble yourself. There are many instances in Shas where somebody came to one of the Amorim. So the Amora said, bend down, pick up my thing, and then I'll tell you. Why? Reb Chaim Shlevet says, because you can't learn until you're willing to be makabel and be misabek ba'afar raglav. But so long as you have the attitude that, this is an interesting thing, and I'm going to decide to what extent I agree with what's being taught, you can't be makabel in Torah. And v'yishteh b'tzamas devrayim, you should drink with thirst the words of Chacham. Now, not everybody always has the opportunity to do this, but if you have to see in Hashas, there's going to be a dais there with every single rabbi in America. Somebody asked, Rabbi, you can be on the dais? Every single rabbi in America has a seat on the dais tomorrow. Okay?
You should.
What?
You should.
Every rabbi. Not every rabbi in America is going to be on the dais, but so you're going to be sitting there, you're going to see 3,000 rabbanim. So the first thing you should have in mind, I'm being mechavein to be in the stadium with Chachmei Yisrael, to mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of ubai sidbak. Now that's the advantage of sitting back up. The disadvantage of sitting on the dais is you can't be mechavein to be mizdabik to everybody in the stands. There's no mitzvah for that. But if we're in the stands, we could be mechavein to be mizdabik to the Talmid Chachamim. That's the advantage of, Now how are you mizdabik? Now are you going to be eating with them? I don't know. If they give out peanuts, and everyone's eating peanuts together, then you could eat together. But I doubt the Chachmei Yisrael are going to be eating the peanuts tomorrow. But I assume that if you sit there in the stands with hachna to listen to the Gedolei Yisrael, as if you're being misavik ba'afar ragleim, I don't see why you're not being mekayim the mitzvah of uvay sidbak. Furthermore, now it's going to be 1 o'clock. At 1:40, you'll be looking at your watch. No, what am I going to do for the next 2.5 hours? So if that's what you're thinking, it's very hard to make the case you're being shoyse batzamas devreya. But at least for whatever amount of time you're going to consent to be there, you have in mind when the next speaker gets up, not another one, how many are left, but if you have mechavein to be shoyse batzama es devrayim, you're mekayim mitzvah d'oraisa ubay sidbak. Furthermore, get binoculars, bring your binoculars, and be looking at the Chachmei Yisrael. So what am I looking for? The Gemara tells us, by looking at Chachamim, it makes you smart. Rabbi said, now Rabbi was a smart guy, not guy. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he raised up his 10 fingers, he said, I was not nene from Olam Hazeh even a little bit. Rabbi, Mishames Rabbi, Batla Anova. Rabbi was one of the greatest people who ever lived. Rabbi said, I am so smart, because I saw, who? Reb Meir from his back. And if I would have seen his front, I would have been even smarter. So bring your binoculars. You have 3 hours. You could look at all the Chachmei Yisrael. You don't know how smart you're going to be. By the time you walk out of there, you look at all the Chachmei Yisrael. You're going to be Mamash a Goyin Olam. But part of this, and this is the most important thing you're going to hear the whole day. So who spoke? Rabbi Chves, Rabbi Levine, Rabbi Friedman, Rabbi Cohen. Why didn't Rabbi Pollack speak? You know why he didn't speak? You know why he didn't speak. It's a very big temptation, the Siyum, for a very juicy Lashon Hara. How long did this one speak for? Did you understand one thing that this one said? Don't say anything about those who didn't speak, about those who did speak. Don't say anything. If you don't have anything good to say, watch out. Watch out. Because someone who's mevazeh Talmid Chacham, you have the status of an apikairas, and there's severe penalty. The worst thing you could do is be mevazeh Talmid Chacham. Mevazeh Talmid Chacham is the status of an apikairas. You pick up a bottle of wine, it's not mavushal, we throw it in the garbage. You have three guys at the table. One guy is Mechal Shabbos, and the other guy is a Lamdin Mufla, but he's Mevazeh Talmid Chachamim. He's an apikairas, and he's Chayv Kares. Be very careful. Being Mevazeh Talmid Chacham is a very serious thing. So, part of, you can take your binoculars, you're going to look at all the Chachmei Yisrael, you're going to become very wise, you're going to mechabed them, you're going to kaim uvay sidbak, and you're not going to say one word about someone who didn't speak, why this one didn't, why did they invite him, he didn't come, he went to the other one. Just drop the whole thing. If that's what you're going to talk about, so listen to somebody talking about the Yankees. That's much better, right? Even though there's nothing talking about, then you're better off by number one, go back to your sports talk show, because much better to do that than to talk about any other Chachmei Yisrael. Okay, number 7. Ready? We're almost there. So you can be sitting in the stands. It's not like the last time you were in MetLife Stadium. Last time you were in MetLife Stadium, could be you had maybe 1 or 2 minyanim of Yidden. There's going to be a lot of Jews there tomorrow. I would say most of the people who finish Shas tomorrow are going to be Yidden. In fact, most of the people who are attending tomorrow are going to be Jews. You're going to be sitting with 100,000 Yidden. You need to think, by sitting there, I love Yidden. I love the Jewish people. This kind of Jew, that kind of Jew, this stripe, that affiliation. It's an opportunity to think, I love Klal Yisrael. The Mesilas Yesharim writes in Parak Yotes in the 3rd line, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu oyev elalami she'oyev es Yisrael. God only loves someone who loves Jews. I'm a shomer Torah mitzvahs, but I'm not going to there on Chol Hamoed. I only go where there are no Jews on Chol Hamoed. The only problem is everybody says that, so everyone goes to the same place. You don't like Jews? God doesn't like people who don't like Jews. You can be sitting with 100,000, don't say, Yidden! Say the Yidden are the most wonderful people in the world. It's an opportunity, you're sitting there, you should just sit there and think, I love every single brother that's in the stadium. The more you increase your love for a Yid, Gam HaKadosh Baruch Hu Magdil Alav. The more the Rebbe Shalom loves you. You want to know, does God love me? He does, depending on how much you love other Yidden. So you can be sitting there, this is the big test for the next 7.5 years, you know? It's something you could do every day. It's something you could do every morning and shul. But here's a big barometer. And it's a way to work on a person, on oneself. To be Magdil Ahavas El Yisrael, and then Az HaKadosh Baruch Hu Magdil Alav. Okay, next. Unique opportunity. I would assume, I don't know when the last time you had this opportunity. We know if you're in a place where there's 600,000 Jews, you make a bracha. What's the bracha? Brachat Hashem Chachelam. Chacham Harazim. Chacham Harazim. The one who knows all the secrets. Can you imagine? There's 600,000 people and God knows what's in everybody's heart. So a giant stadium does not hold 600,000 people. But it holds 22,000 people. And the Gemara says the Shekhinah does not rest on less than 22,000 Yidden. So at a typical minyan, let's say in our shul at 7 o'clock, we usually don't have 22,000 people on most mornings.
That's 21.
What?
21.
Yeah. Now, you'll say, what do you mean? All you need is a minyan to get the Shekhinah. So the Stipler has a letter that there are many levels of Shekhinah. You know, Kol Be'asara Shekhinah Sharia. But there is a madrega of Shekhinah that requires 22,000 people. So, if you're there, you should realize that if you're davening mincha, you may not have a mincha like this for another 7.5 years. They're going to be saying, I forgot to mention, you know, they're going to be learning Gemara Brachas, Daf Beis Amud Aleph. Remember we said the Bir Halacha says that you should always try to learn B'chabura. If you're not the kind of guy who learns B'chabura, this is your opportunity to learn Daf Beis Amud Aleph with 100,000 Yidden. You should be Mechavein and Imuchan and Mazuman L'Kayim Talmud Torah Barabim. And you should be mechaven when you're davening. I'm davening with a level of shechina that I don't ordinarily have. And if you're mekayim, every mitzvah you're mekayim there, whether it's limudat Torah, whether it's the mitzvah of uvay sidbak, whether it's the mitzvah of tefillah, whether the mitzvah of amen yeshmei rabbah, you are able to do it with a level of shechina that ordinarily you're not able to achieve. So you have to be aware of it. The more you know about something, the more awareness you have, the more cognizance you have, the more you're able to tap into it. Number 9, merubim tzarchei amcha. Yeah, people have a lot of needs. People need parnasa, people need bane, chaye, mezoine, shidduchim, nachas. Everybody has things that they're mispala for. Very interesting idea. One of the greatest Eis Ratzains is a time of a Siyum. Now I have one Maramakim here, and I read an interesting story about the Brisker Rav. A woman who was not blessed with children came to the Brisker Rav for a bracha. Brisker Rav told his kids, tell her to come back later. She came from out of town. It was a big tircha for her to hang around. She came back later. Brisker Rav told the kids, tell her to come back in the morning. She came back in the morning. The Brisker Rav gave a bracha. The kids were wondering, why did the Brisker Rav push off the woman? It wasn't, it was a big tircha for her to wait around. They were embarrassed to ask their father. They went to Reb Shach. They said, Reb Shach, the Brisker Rav must have had a cheshbon why he was madche the woman. The woman was tzubrach a woman. So Reb Shach asked the Brisker Rav said, I was about to finish the Masechta. At the time that you finish the Masechta, all the Amoram of that Masechta come, and they're melets, and they come to protect. And at that moment, it's a gewaldika Eis Ratzain. And you can't just give a bracha. You have to give a bracha at the opportune time. So therefore, I was about to finish the Masechta. I wanted the woman to get the bracha at the time of the Siyum, but I had a kasha on a blot on the end of the Masechta. I didn't know the answer. So I was waiting to get the answer to the question, to make the Siyum, and then give the woman the bracha. So there's a story over here about a Cossack named Flava.
Which number is it?
I'm in number 15. Anybody ever hear of the Cossack Flava? I try to research him. I didn't get much information about the notorious Cossack Flava. Slava? We have a Chashva Rav here from Amsterdam, Rabbi Chunavalt, yeah? Maybe he could do some research for us about the Cossack Flava. No? This Cossack was a bad guy. He's a bad dude. And he was a Roitzeach, a notorious murderer. So there was a big tzaddik, and the name of this tzaddik was Rav Mordechai Ushmaner. And he had enough of Flava. So he gathered together some of his Talmidim, and he went into a cold basement, and he made a Siyum. And he said, Hadran Alach, Shas Bavli. And he said, the pasuk, Loikein Harashayim, Kiem Kamoitz Asher Tidfenu Ruach. And he said, Flava should fly away like the dust of the earth. And at that time, Flava was somewhere in Russia, and he was a horse of a guy. He was a healthy guy. And the moment that this tzaddik made the hadran and said Flava should drop, Flava instantly dropped dead. Why? A time of a Siyum is a great Eis Ratzain. So therefore tomorrow, it's one thing, you make a Siyum on a Masechta, or 10 people make a Siyum on a Masechta, or 100 people make a Siyum on a Masechta. But when you have thousands of people who are being Messiahim Shas, Mestama, it's a great Eis Ratzain. So if you have the opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity to daven for what you need, for what your friends need, for what Klal Yisrael needs. And Emir Hashem, all the tefillah should be neskabel, barachamim of Ratzain. Number 10. We're almost there. There was always a question. Every cycle of Siyum Hashas, there's always a question, is this a good idea? Especially now, every day you read in the news about all kinds of incidents, and the one thing that we need to do, and we should do, is basically stay out of the limelight. And is this really a good idea of having 100,000 Jews converge in one makom, where they need, secure, you need guys with snipers and dogs protecting us? Does this make any sense? So in 1940, Rabbi Sachar Shlomo Teichtal, the Eim Abanim Smecha, the Mishnah Sachir, was posed with a question. He was giving a Shiur Masechta Megillah, and he finished the Masechta, and he wanted to make a Siyum, Kedarko B'Kodesh. He would make a Siyum, and he would invite not only the Messiahim, but all the whole city, and all the dignitaries. And some of the people felt, this is not the time to make a Siyum. With the winds of war blowing, the Nazis were coming fast. They were in Sakanas Nefashos. Maybe this is not the time to make a Siyum. And other Balabatim said, you know what? We need to make a Siyum. It's a Sudas Mitzvah, but maybe not with Basar, maybe not with Yayin. Says Rav Teichtal that he paskin that it's a Mitzvah Gedoyla to make a Suda Gedoyla, and to do it with great pomp and ceremony, and to have meat, and to have wine, and according to the Rav of Lublin, even to have fish. And the zechus of a Sudas Mitzvah is so great that it's a tremendous zechus, and it's especially effective to be mavatel all gezeiros rois on Klal Yisrael. That's what he writes, 1940, that he felt that making a big siyum would be a zechus to be mavatel the impending gezeira. So maybe it's an ace ratzah, it's an ace tzara for Klal Yisrael now in America. Maybe the Rebbe Shem orchestrated that we should have this Siyum Hashas dafk at this time to be mavatel from upon us all gezeiros rois and all looming threats, and all the oivei Hashem and Sani Yisrael should have a great matpala. But he writes that he believes that when you make a big siyum and everybody gathers and everybody pays homage to the Torah, he writes, V'haya Kiddush Hashem Gadol. It is a great Kiddush Hashem. And not only is it a great Kiddush Hashem, he says, it's Meroimim the Karen of the Torah. It elevates the stature of the Torah. So if you're there tomorrow, even if you didn't finish Shas, more importantly than finishing Shas, more important than Talmud Torah, is what we were created for. Baruch Hu Elokeinu Shabranu L'chvoidai. God created us to honor Him. So tomorrow's gathering is certainly a great Kiddush Hashem. It certainly elevates the stature of the Torah in the eyes of Klal Yisrael and in the eyes of the whole world. So if you can have a little piece of it, have kavana to mekayim, the great mitzvah, to mekadesh, shmai, barabim, l'roimim, karen haTorah. Baruch Hashem should give us siyata d'shmaya to take advantage of some of these ideas, and it should be an inspiration to all of us to strengthen our commitment to Kriyas Yitam HaTorah, Shvizoicha L'Kadesh Shmai Barabim. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.